So hello and welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, a series where I, your host for this week's episode, Karl Smallwood, and my ever lovely co-host, Holland.
Hello.
Oh, you alright there, mate?
Oh, I died. I went to say hello just after I'd taken a sip of my drink.
Lucas, do not become addicted to water. Do not allow the addiction to water to cloud your judgment.
I live, I die, I live again!
Which is a clue for the topic of today's episode. Mad Max Fury Road.
See, this is the interesting thing, Karl, because I didn't know that was a reference, because I've not seen the movie.
You've not seen Mad Max Fury Road?
No. Just never got around to it.
Lucas. Why?
Why?
What possible reason could you not have to watch the magnum opus of Babe, Pig in the City director George Miller?
I mean, that's true, but I mean, it's just one of those I've never noticed it being on any streaming service that I've paid for.
Well, that's fair enough. Well, fortunately, thanks to the format of Wiki Weekends, where we find a wiki entry on a subject we're interested in and go through it, you not being familiar with Fury Road is not an issue, because we can get all the information you require by delving into it right now. So, you are am I to surmise then, Lucas, you are fresh into the Mad Max franchise? You're aware of it via pop culture osmosis, and that's about it?
Other than like a couple of videos here and there mentioning and showing off how cool the practical effects of Fury Road were, I'm not very familiar with it outside of that.
Well, we'll get to the practical effects, because that's one of the reasons why this movie is so fascinating to talk about. But to get everyone on the same page as Lucas, i.e. page 1, so Mad Max Fury Road is a 2015 Australian post-apocalyptic action film co-written, co-produced, and directed by George Miller. And how familiar are you with the work of George Miller?
Well, it took me a long time to realise that George Miller was originally the director of Mad Max. I assumed for Fury Road that they'd brought in a new person.
Well, that's what it feels like, right? Because, as I said, you're aware of it via pop culture osmosis, and you're probably aware, like, you just heard Mad Max is the greatest action movie of, like, the last 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point did you realise, yeah, it's the same guy who directed the one in the 80s, and he was, like, in his 70s when he directed it?
Yeah, it wasn't actually very long ago. It was, like, in the past year that I learned that, and I was like, oh, George Miller's, like, the same guy. That's incredible that he's been able to come back after all that time and make it an incredible version of Mad Max.
Yeah, and I joked, like, at the start there that he's, like, you know, the director of Babe, Pig in the City, but I've got George Miller's filmography in front of me, and he's not directed too many films for, like, you know, a director of such high esteem, and his first film was Mad Max, so he opened with a fucking winner, just the first Mad Max movie's directorial debut, Mad Max 2, then Mad Max 3, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Then he had The Witches of Eastwick, Lorenzo's Oil, and then he went through like his weird talking animals phase where he did Babe, Pig in the City, Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2. Took a 4-year hiatus and then just dropped Mad Max Fury Road.
He's the Happy Feet guy?
Lucas, he's Happy Feet 1 and 2.
And the Oscar goes to, let's see, Happy Feet, George Miller.
This is the first Academy Award and 4th nomination for George Miller.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as far as I'm aware, there could be like 8 Happy Feet now, but...
But that's the thing though, right? Like, where he did Mad Max 1, 2 and 3, Witches of Eastwick, 4 talking animal films in a row. I think it was like an indie film in there somewhere. And then just dropped Mad Max Fury Road in his 70s and I've still got it.
Yeah, just when people think, like, oh, George Miller, like, dropped off a cliff doing Babe and Happy Feet, and he's like, nah, bitch.
And Mad Max joins the likes of, like, Terminator, where the main character says less than, like, 100 words on screen.
Is the main character as in Mad Max?
Yes.
Because as much as I'm not aware of the movie, I've heard that essentially Mad Max is not the main character.
Well, Mad Max is like a vehicle for the story, if you'll forgive the pun, and he is the main character, but he's the character from which the story is framed. Furiosa is arguably the main character of the film, and she has the most interesting backstory, and a bunch of weirdos online, when like the film came out, were complaining of like, oh, there's a bunch of women in this film. It's like, did you watch Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome, where like Tina Turner runs like a fucking like death arena?
Tina Turner runs the Thunderdome?
Yeah, Tina Turner's like the runner of the Thunderdome, I think. Like the film has always been very progressive in that way, and it's just one of those tells of like the weirdo guys who complain about something for having women or black people in it. It's like, are you actually a fan of this thing? Do you know what the series is all about or what the director has stated?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when that Prey movie came out, like the Predator spin-off. And they were like, how dare it star like a woman in the main role? You'd never see that back in the day. And it's like
did you watch Predator 1?
Most of the 80s action movies, apart from Predator, were just like women in the main action role.
But also, there was a woman in the first Predator movie.
What's that?
And they also say, it's not believable that a woman would be able to beat a Predator. It's what Arnold Schwarzenegger when he's trying to beat a Predator. It's like, the whole point of that first Predator movie is that Arnold Schwarzenegger beats the Predator through guile and technique when he realises that brute force won't work. Like, it's literally the point of the first Predator movie is that you see this big, huge collection of like refrigerator-shaped gentlemen, and they all get their ass kicked by the Predator, and they have to rely on their guile and their skill as opposed to their raw brute strength. It's like literally the point of the movie. It's like, do those weirdos watch the movies they claim to be fans of? It's like, in regards to Mad Max, like, well, Mad Max barely talks in his movies. It's like, he never talks in the other movies.
Hi. Hey, man. This isn't what it looks, man. You know, I just come down here to check it out, then. This guy, he's already snuffed. Nothing you can do for him.
Ankle.
Fair enough, yeah. I mean, that sounds like a Mel Gibson movie, right?
Yeah. So the less said about the better, Lucas, but he does mention that in his wiki because I read ahead, and it's very, very diplomatically worded. Set in a post-apocalyptic desert wasteland, i.e. Australia, where petrol and water are scarce commodities. And that's how you get a great line from Immortan Joe, where he's like giving the people water. He's like, do not become addicted to water.
Oh, God.
Just like he's just propagandizing to his people, don't become addicted to water.
What else are they meant to drink? Just let's all die not drinking water. That sounds great.
Fury Road follows the story of Max Rottenkaski as he joins forces with Imperator Furiosa and against cult leader Immortan Joe and his army, leading to a lengthy, near the entire length of the movie chase. It's like literally the movie is just one giant chase. There's a brief bit of respite in the middle, and then they drive all the way back to where they came from.
Oh, that's cool.
And I remember when I was sat in the cinema watching Fury Road, which is a fucking experience, by the way. I'm sat there and I go, okay, so I need the bathroom. You know what? I'll go to the bathroom when the chase scene ends. And like 40 minutes later, I'm like, the chase scene's still going on. Another 40 minutes later, end of the film, the chase scene, and it's just one giant chase. It's fucking incredible. But then we have here production, Lucas. So development of Fury Road was quite lengthy. It began in 1987. So this film was in production hell for nigh on like 30 years.
How? I don't understand how a movie can be technically in production for that long.
And that's one of the reasons why it being so good was such a surprise. Because when you hear those about projects that are in like development hell, like a la Duke Nukem Forever or something like that, it's like, well, it's going to be shit, right? It will never live up to the hype. Or it'll had too many fingers in the pie, or too many people would have had their hands on it with conflicting visions of what it should be. Mad Max Fury Road is a like notable exception to that rule because it only ever really had one person's like hands on it that entire time, George Miller's.
Yeah, because normally in that scenario, it's that a bunch of compromises have had to been made to get it across the line, right?
Yeah. And some compromises were made, as we'll get to in a moment. So the wiki continues. George Miller had the idea of making a Mad Max installment that was almost a continuous chase.
About 12 years ago, I was on a long flight between Los Angeles and Sydney, and the movie Fury Road came unbidden and played in my head.
Here we go!
And by the time I landed, I told my colleagues, I think I've got another Mad Max movie.
And the basic plot of the movie, Lucas, is that Mad Max gets captured, and it's actually kind of incredible. Because the first thing that happens in the movie is you see Mad Max, and there's like Mad Max's car. And you think, is it going to be one of those shots? Is it going to be a Member Berry shot? And this film's going to be, do you remember Mad Max 1? look, there's
God,
Mad
yeah.
Max's car. In the first 30 seconds, they blow up Mad Max's car. They blow up like one of the most iconic things from the first movie, and Mad Max just gets captured, strapped to the front of another car as a blood bag, which is essentially just, okay, for our guys to like maintain maximum adrenaline, we just get slaves and hook them up to our guys, so they have just to continue, so they have more blood, so they can just be constantly just pumped while they're driving, and just Max is just strapped to the front of the fucking car as they drive through a fucking like storm.
God damn.
And they're chasing Furiosa, who's like kidnapped like this big war rig that they think is full of water. It's actually full of Immortan Joe's kidnapped slave wives.
Oh.
And that's better. And basically the plot is they're trying to get it back. That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like just Immortan Joe wants his shit back.
Oh, so she's stolen the wives from them.
She's stolen the wives, yeah, to set them free. And like, Max is one of like, the slaves, and he, through various shenanigans, escapes and helps Furiosa on her journey.
Mm-hmm.
And something quite interesting here, Lucas. Miller said he worked with 5 storyboard artists to design the film in storyboard form before he began writing the screenplay, because he felt that visuals are more important to the film than dialogue.
Yeah, that's almost like how animated movies usually go through production, right? It's like they'll go and storyboard everything out and then come up with scripts later on, I believe.
Yep, and it says here that just Miller did this because he wanted the film to be almost a continuous chase with relatively little dialogue, and to have visuals come first. And fucking hell do they come first. It is a beautiful movie.
It's Fury Road that you've mentioned in the past that George Miller wanted it to kind of be able to be watched by anyone, not necessarily English-speaking people, and just be able to understand the plot just through visuals alone.
Yeah, there are multiple versions of the movie that exist. There's the original, just theatrical cut. There's a director's cut, and then there is the black and chrome cut.
In this wasteland, I am the one reduced to a single instinct: survive.
George Miller originally wanted the film to be in black and white, so it's the black and chrome version. And one of the interesting things about the filming of the movie is that George Miller had this specifically in mind when he was making the movie. So every single shot was filmed with that in mind, the fact that he wanted it to be in black and white. Because some lesser directors, let's say, or at least lesser compared to George Miller, let's be diplomatic here, have toyed with the idea of using black and white. And I'm going to mention here, Lucas?
I'm presuming that you're talking about Zack Snyder here.
Yeah, where Zack Snyder was talking about for his Justice League movie, he was going to put it in black and white because he saw Logan, and there was that Logan cut that was in black and white because it's like basically a noir movie. And Zack Snyder saw it getting like Oscar buzz, and was like, "Well, my movie's art. That movie was arty. It was in black and white. My movie should be in black and white."
It's like, that way of thinking about film like a 13-year-old, isn't it? Of like, black and white equals artsy and important.
And my film is the most artsy and the most important, so my film should also be in black and white. It's like, Zack Snyder doesn't understand that. When you make a black and white movie, it's not about the blacks and the whites, it's about shadow. That's one of the things when you're making a black and white movie, it's all about shadow and lack thereof. And that's something George Miller intimately understood when he was crafting the movie. Although it's very colourful, the black and chrome version is supposedly a fucking phenomenal experience, and I've yet to see it because I'm waiting to go see it in IMAX, and it very rarely comes up near me in IMAX because some cinemas occasionally do the black and chrome screening, and I want to see it in the best quality possible. The film entered pre-production in the early 2000s and was set to star Mel Gibson, who portrayed Max in the first 3 films in the series, with Sigourney Weaver contemplated for the female co-lead who would later become Furiosa. That could have worked.
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously see Sigourney Weaver being a badass action star like she always has been.
Also, as well, like, she looked really good bald.
Hey, sister, what about you? You're an officer. How about showing us a little leadership?
Fucking Shirley Temple, you take charge.
Right.
You run things here anyway.
No fucking way.
Yeah, I can't remember whether I've seen Sigourney Weaver bald or not.
She is in one of the Alien movies. I think it's like Alien 3. Where she has no hair, but she looks good bald, which is like that's the iconic look of Furiosa, where she has like the shaved head, raw, like the black war paint on. She looks almost like a ghost. And like, apparently that idea was suggested by Mel Gibson himself, and Miller agreed upon the idea. However, production was indefinitely postponed due to 9/11.
Like the good old days after 9/11.
Oh,
Because
shit.
it caused the American, to quote George Miller here, the dollar to collapse against the Australian dollar, and our budget ballooned.
Oh, so it all got fucked up because, like, production was in Australia, so it all became so much more expensive in
And also,
comparison.
someone just texted me, it's like, no, I'll answer this after I've finished talking about Fury Road. But Lucas, I bet you weren't expecting this swerve. In either event, Miller said he then had to, and I quote, commit to Happy Feet.
Oh,
He had to
right.
commit to Happy Feet, Lucas, because he already had the digital facility booked to do it. Just the idea
So,
that
like-
he's there, like, why are you not making that mad? Like, imagine like you're in the 2000s, you're like interviewing George Miller. So, okay, George, does that like theorized fourth like Mad Max movie that's been in the pipeline for years now? Are we any closer to seeing that? It's like, unfortunately, I've committed to Happy Feet. You're just
I've
like,
got to make some Happy Feet movies, I'm afraid. It's like, you've got Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver, like, trying to bust your front door, and it's like, mate, I'm making Happy Feet.
I've got Mate Happy Feet, and then Happy Feet 2. Or Babe. The thing is, just the idea that he made Babe Pig in the City cracks me the fuck up.
Which one was it that got, like, nominated for awards and shit?
Oh.
Because one of them's, like, a really well-regarded movie, one of the Babes,
I think
right?
the first Babe movie is, yeah, especially in regards to its effects. I think its effects work got a lot of props, which now makes sense considering that it was directed by the guy who did Mad Max. But then, Miller continued that by the time he'd gotten back to work on the Mad Max project 4 years later, after his commitment to those digital penguins, Gibson had all that turbulence in his life, which is probably the most diplomatic way I have heard someone describe going on a drunken anti-Semitic rant.
I mean, there was more than just that, but we'll leave it there.
Let's just leave it. You know what? Go look at Mel Gibson's Wikipedia page if you want to know more. Don't look at the section titled Controversies and Other Ventures.
Dear God.
In 2006, Miller said he was thinking about making Fury Road without Gibson. He confirmed his intention to make another Mad Max film in 2007 and stated that he thought Gibson was focused on his own films and was too old to play the part. Although the idea of like an old and wizened Mad Max could work, I suppose.
Although, like, does anyone get wiser in that universe? Do they not just get more mad?
Well, it's the idea of like anyone who managed to live to old age in that universe must be a fucking badass. Imagine how much of a badass you've got to be.
Or just a horrible monster.
Oh, Lucas. But thing is though, speaking of stuff that never got made, on March 2009, it was announced an R-rated animated feature inspired by Japanese anime but adapted for Western audiences in pre-production. Will be taking much of the plot of Fury Road and would not feature Gibson's likeness or voice. Miller was also co-developing a action-adventure tie-in video game based on the fourth film with God of War designer Cory Barlog.
I mean, alright, Mad Max game did come out, like, in the end.
But it wasn't the one he was working on.
I think it was, like... Yeah. No, it was made by, like, Avalanche Studios, I think it was in the end, which I think may have made, like, Just Cause or something like that. I can't quite remember, but I remember getting decent reviews at the time.
But it wasn't one that, like, George Miller personally had a hand in. And that's what I mean. Think about all these, like, stalled projects and, how many times it got put on the back burner or cancelled or something stopped it from getting made. And it came out and was fucking phenomenal. That's why everyone was like, how can it be good? It's like a 70-year-old guy's directing a fucking action movie. It's not got the main character in it, because that's the thing people care about, even though the character of Max doesn't matter. Max is like, this wasteland folk hero. He's not that important to the story. He is just a character for whom the story happens around. He doesn't need to be played by Mel Gibson. Like, the character isn't that important, even though the film's called Mad Max.
And that's the thing, we've even mentioned before, like, the idea that Mad Max might not even necessarily be one person. It might just be a legend of different stories across the wastelands.
And that's never directly confirmed in the text, but it is a commonly accepted reading of it, because I think Mad Max 2 opens with, let me tell you the legend of the Road Warrior. We called him Max.
I remember a time of chaos, ruined dreams, this wasted land. But most of all, I remember the road warrior, the man we called Max.
Which all but confirms, at least to me, that, okay, we don't actually know who this guy is. We're just going to attribute what this happened to this guy called Max, because there's just this guy who roams the wasteland, kicking the fuck out of people and driving around a kick-ass car with a shotgun, called Mad Max. And he's just this folk hero whom people tell stories about. Tall tales.
And I'm kind of upset that that anime didn't happen, because not long ago we talked about Fist of the North Star and how it's like kind of inspired by Mad Max a little bit, or like has very similar vibes. And yeah, like it's not hard to make a cool anime out of the idea of like Mad Max roaming the wasteland and getting in like all these different, you know, car chases and hunting people down with his shotgun and stuff.
And knowing like that George Miller is like, you know, as weirdo for detail as he is, we could have got something like Red Line. Do you know, like that anime people always point out as like the best drawn thing ever? It's like the driving anime.
Oh yes,
just like the amount of detail, we could have had that, but we got Mad Max Fury Road. Which is, you know, it's good.
It's an alright compromise.
It's a nice compromise to get Fury Road, which you do need to watch, Lucas.
I do need to watch it, yeah.
Moving on to 2009 now, it was reported that location scouting was underway for Fury Road, which would go into production later that year. Miller had decided to shoot a live-action film after all, and already had the various vehicles built for years now.
Jesus.
Which actually ended up working out for production, because a bunch of the like things got built, put into storage. When they dragged them out, they were all like weathered and aged and beat up, which just suited the movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want anyway.
That same month, British actor Tom Hardy entered negotiations to take the lead role of Max, and it was also announced that Charlize Theron would play a major role. The finalists for the role of Max were Hardy, Armie Hammer, Jeremy Renner, Michael Fassbender, Joel Kinnaman, Heath Ledger, Eric Bana, and even Eminem. Eminem could have been Mad Max.
What did you mean when you rapped?
I said nice rectum. I had a
vasectomy, Hector. So you can't get pregnant if I bisexually wreck you.
I pretty much just been leaving a breadcrumb trail of gayness.
I see that now.
Like, I know obviously Eminem's been in a couple of things, and obviously 8 Mile loosely about their own story and stuff, but like, that would be kind of weird to see Eminem as Mad Max. I guess like it's M and M, right?
But here's the thing as well. It's like they say that Eminem, like the negotiation didn't go very fast. He didn't want to leave the United States. And Joe, he's like basically shot his own acting career in the foot like 3 times. He just keeps doing this.
He just doesn't want to leave USA.
He was going to be the lead in Elysium.
Oh,
that was
right,
like Matt Damon, but he insisted I want to film it in Detroit.
You're fucking stuck. Yeah. You're stuck just like me. Can't go to fucking Chuck E. Cheese. I can't go to Target. I can't go to Best Buy. I can't go to fucking Walmart, Kmart. You fucking name it, I can't go there.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone in this fucking room is either staring at us, want to take a fucking picture.
Yeah, email that to me.
And of those actors, Lucas, which one would you want to see in the role? Because I think Heath Ledger, you know, before he, like, you know, unfortunately passed away, he'd have probably done a really fucking good role.
Yeah, I'm sure Heath Ledger would have done a really good job, and I'm trying to think of who other you said then as well.
And there was also Joel Kinnaman, Michael Fassbender, Jeremy Renner, Armie Hammer, Eric Bana. I think Eric Bana could have been good because he's the one who played the Hulk in that, like, you know, that ill-fated Hulk movie, which we'll cover on another episode of Wiki Weekend because the production's fascinating. Like, he's quite good at, like, you know, non-verbal acting.
Something tells me you aren't in much of a position to be making stupid threats to anyone.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I'm sure, like, all of them would have done a good job, but I do think that Tom Hardy is very good at capturing, like, that weird, crazy vibe.
Yeah, like, he's really good at portraying just a guy who's fucking paranoid as all balls.
Yeah.
Like, in like the Venom movie, where I think like watching the Venom movie makes me feel like I've got the flu. Because it just, Tom Hardy just looks so ill and paranoid and sweaty all the time, which really works for a film where he's just been captured and held prisoner.
Stay put.
Hey, Eddie.
Who the hell is this guy?
I'm gonna need Mr. Drake's property back.
Oh.
I mean, you know, that's why he needs to get in that lobster tank, Karl.
In July 2010, Miller announced plans to shoot 2 Mad Max films back-to-back, titled Mad Max Fury Road and Mad Max Furiosa. Weta Digital was involved with the film and it was scheduled for a 2012 release. The company was to handle visual effects, conceptual design, specialty makeup effects, and costume designs until production was postponed from its November 2010 date. So even when they had all the actors locked in, all the shit was half-built, and they had Weta Digital, it's like we had to postpone again.
And that is, I think, one, like, probably important thing to mention is that this is one of those movies where people go, oh, loads of it was practical effects, so all of it was. It's like, no, there's still special effects and visual effects involved.
But they're used to enhance the practical effects. And something we can talk about when we get to the filming is just how crazy George Miller was for like, detail and stuff.
But it just pisses me off when people are like, oh, they did some of it practically. That means there's no CGI at all. It's like, no, there is.
CGI was used as a tool to enhance the practical effects, as it probably should be. I'm going to start and stop my camera now.
Which is the best way to generally do it, yeah.
I'll start and stop my camera now, because it's about to stop. And Lucas, right? Do you want to guess why production was postponed? Because it's actually kind of hilarious. I'll give you a clue.
God.
Rain.
As in, just like, did all of a sudden they have like a bunch of rain in Australia?
They had a bunch of heavy rain, which caused flowers to start growing in the desert.
Oh, and you can't have that in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
The point of the film is that nothing fucking grows anymore. And one of the great things about the Mad Max movies is its world building. And there's a quote that I'm familiar with about world building that I'm probably going to butcher now. It says like, a good movie or a good universe established in a movie will, every time it shows you something, make you ask 3 more questions. And Mad Max does that in droves. Like, every single line of dialogue makes you go, wait a minute, I want to know more. Like, when they're driving through the desert, it's like, okay, we need some help. Go get the bullet farmers. Like, who the fuck are the bullet farmers? What do? They never explain it, but you want to know. I want to know about the bullet farm. What the fuck do they do? Farming? How do you farm bullets?
Go for one way or the other when it comes to movies like that of either, you know, overly explain everything or explain basically nothing. I always prefer the latter, because, I love just leaving a movie going, wait, what are these fucking bullet farmers? The bullet farmers never got shown.
All this stuff is explained, just not in the movie itself. The movie just invites you to ponder it for yourself, but all the cool shit in the universe does make sense and is explained. Oh, sorry, go on, Lucas,
You can often, like, tell when it's been thought about more than not, and, like, a lot of the time when it's just, we're going to throw random lines in that we've never thought about and we've never explained.
Your father fought in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, just random line drops like that. It's like, oh, you clearly, like, that, it never comes back up, apart from, obviously, until the prequels, but just, that was something dropped without any thought, really, of just, I guess that's a line we can throw in and we'll worry about it later, whereas you can normally feel when they've sat down and fleshed out the world behind the scenes.
And that's one of the things that happens with Mad Max. So when these lines get dropped, it makes you wonder, like, wait a minute, I want to know more about that. More is probably explained in, like, the art books and the storyboards and just infused with George Miller. This entire universe is so meticulously crafted. And I think the best example I can think off the top of my head is the Doof Warrior. And Lucas, you've not seen the film, but you know the Doof Warrior. He's the guy with the flaming electric guitar.
Oh, right, yes,
Which
of course.
Probably one of the most iconic visuals from that film. Just guy with flaming guitar on top of, like, a driving wall of speakers. Like, basically a mobile Iron Maiden concert. And, one, that's fucking rad, but there is an explanation for that. It's like, that character is, like, a child who was, like, abandoned, is blind, and communicates through sound.
Right.
So that's why he plays the guitar. But you might think, okay, but why does this giant fucking just convoy of vehicles have a guy playing guitar that sets on fire? Other than it just being really fucking rad? Well, in the art books, it's explained that, well, this is akin to a drummer boy back in war. Do you know, like when you'd have like marching armies and have a drummer to keep time and communicate orders because you could hear it over the din of everything else, like bugle players and stuff. You'd have like drummers who'd like keep time, and you'd have like a bugle player who could communicate orders and stuff like that. That's what that is, and the reason you have to have the wall of fucking speakers is because you have to hear them over the roar of the engines.
The lead truck has a lead guitarist suspended from a wire, and he's shooting flames from the neck of his guitar. Where does that idea come from?
Well, it's perfectly logical. It is.
Okay.
There's always the music of war. You know, the bugler, the drummer, the bagpipe player. But in this case, you've got all those vehicles with V8 engines and V16 engines and so on. So it's very noisy. So the guitar.
Also, the fire. One, it looks really fucking cool, and a bunch of people, when it comes out, okay, but this is a universe where fuel is a scarce commodity. Why are they wasting fuel for a flamethrower guitar? Although it is cool. Well, he's communicating orders. Because you can't see when you're behind the giant fucking wall of amps, but when you see the flames coming out to the left or to the right, you know which direction you're going in. And that's explained, and you can infer that from the text, or you can just watch it for raw and cool. So you can just watch it as this awesome visual, or if you want to think about it, it is explained. It does make sense to the universe that it exists in.
The world, to do a movie like this, everything has to kind of have an internal logic. That even if the audience doesn't understand what it is, they understand that the characters and the people telling the story have their version of it. So for me, it's a documentary.
But yeah, as you say, if you just want to watch it and go, look, guy with fire and guitar, how awesome. It's like, that works on that level too.
Yeah, and I have to tell the story as well of when George Miller, like, he drew that, and he said, I want, like, you know, you to build this for me. And the visual effects team went away, and they built the guitar, it shot flames, and they showed George Miller it. And the first thing he said is, okay, turn it on. And they went, what do you mean turn it on? I went, well, turn it on, I want to hear it play. They're like, it doesn't play. What do you mean it doesn't play? Well, it's a prop. He goes, yeah, but I want the actor who plays the Doof Warrior to be able to play the guitar. And the prop team were like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, no, I want the guitar to play. So they had to go back with that prototype, make it play. And apparently it did play. It sounded like shit. But they wanted the actor playing the Doof Warrior, who was actually just suspended in a mask so he could barely see, on a truck driving through the desert. And they just said, and all the amps on the back of a truck as well, they were also all real. Because they were, again, initially just props. And George Miller asked them to turn the truck on. And they went, well, none of them are plugged in, none of them work. He went, we'll fix that. Because I want the actor to be able to, like, you know, feel the emotion. The, like, you know, just the absolute just frenzy that would occur when you are, like, floating in midair, playing a flaming guitar, driving around the desert. I want to get the most realistic performance from the Doof Warrior.
Holy fuck. Like, I feel kind of bad for that actor. Like,
Lucas, I never will, because he's got the best fucking story of any actor. I was the Doof Warrior.
But imagine just having to be on set, like, presumably, like, all day in the hot Australian sun, and all you've got constantly going on every time you're actually shooting is, like, just fire and noise everywhere around you.
But Lucas, how fucking rad would that be?
Oh, yeah.
And the same is true of all of the other vehicles as well. They were all actually built, and they all could drive around and do the things that they could do in the movie, and they did really all explode. And I think one of the other moments in the film that, like, George Miller was really annoyed about until he figured out a way to do it is, did you have... Oh, sorry. And I think there's one...
Can you just give me 1 minute? Kate just sounds a bit weird. He's only just been dropped back off.
Okay, no problem.
I'm just on my own today.
Okay. I'll wait a sec. So are the puppers okay?
Yeah, I'd forgot I'd left the back door open for Oryx, because he's pretty chill, but then Kate got back and they were both just barking in the garden.
All I think when, like, you know, your two dogs are just left alone is just them scheming. I just think whenever your dogs are left alone, they must be scheming, like rubbing their little paws together, like, hee hee.
The thing is, Cade's the schemer, but Oryx just goes along with whatever the plan is.
I will never forget the story you told me when you first got Oryx. You lost him, and you found him in your cupboard inside a wok, licking the wok. And it's like, fuck's sake, Oryx. We're bringing it back to Mad Max, Lucas. Of the 150 vehicles constructed for the film, only 88 survived.
Ooh.
With the others built to facilitate their intended method of destruction. The War Rig, the film's most prominent vehicle, was made by combining a Tatra 815, a Chevrolet because I'm so bad at pronouncing that word, Chevrolet Fleetmaster, and a Volkswagen Beetle fused to the hull. The cars were designed with an emphasis on detail and characterization, and an effort was made to show the various characters' attempts to recycle the remains of civilization. That's just one of those things where it's like, there's so much just like world building and just like art and craft put into the sets. It reminds me a little bit like Lord of the Rings. Presumably you're familiar with like the amount of detail they put into like every single prop on Lord of the Rings, where like the orc armor, for example, it was all built, it's actual armor, but every individual orc wears different armor, and you can infer that basically how old and how like seasoned an orc is and where they fought based on their armor, because they'll be wearing scavenged armor from different battlefields. And some of them are wearing like scavenged scavenged elven armor, scavenged human armor, scavenged dwarven armor, and the more armor they're wearing, the longer they've been alive.
The thing is, though, you never see him in Hobbit armor, which implies no Hobbit was ever killed.
Well, no one's ever going to catch a fucking Hobbit, are they? And then we have here, Lucas, filming. So the filming was done, not with a 3D camera it mentions here, because George Miller did not think it would be able to survive the rough and tumble environment of the desert, which is fair.
Fair enough, yeah.
He also insisted that the cinematographer, who came out of retirement for the film...
Holy shit.
Because that's the thing, imagine you hear like George Miller's making another Mad Max movie, like, I'm fucking coming out of retirement for this nonsense. I want to know.
I presume there's somebody who's worked with him in the past, yeah.
And it says here that he was asked specifically to keep the point of interest in the centre of frame for every single shot.
Oh,
and there's like great breakdowns out there, which I'll put a clip in of, just showing that as much bombastic action is happening on screen at any given time, it's surprisingly easy to follow, and that's because what you need to pay attention to is smack bam in the centre of frame every single time. Like, there is no stunt actor alive who could wave on one of these poles on the back of a car going 50 miles an hour through the desert. And then George Miller's like, do we have to do it with CGI? It's like, it's the only way. There's no one alive who could do this. And then they found people in the Cirque du Soleil who could do it.
I thought you were about to say, so they went to the dead. Just start striking dead people.
They found people in Cirque du Soleil who did a similar routine, and they trained them, and they were able to do the stunt.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. If you're gonna get anyone to do like wild acrobatic shit, it's a good place to start.
Yeah. It mentions it, Hardy later said he had a hard time seeing Miller's vision during production. It's like, do you know what I'd have done? I'd sat him down and gone, just watch Babe, watch Happy Feet, and you'll know that this film's in good hands.
Just watch Happy Feet 2 and you'll never question anything this man does.
He understood after seeing the finished film, as many people did. I'm just thinking of the Danny DeVito, I mean, like, I get it now. Like, he just sees, like, the Cirque du Soleil performers swinging on the fucking things and throwing, like, explosive spears. He's like, I see it now. I see this is cinema.
I mean, he spent half the time strapped to the front of the car. He didn't know what was going on.
To be fair, yeah. He spent, very similar to Max, who has no fucking clue what's going on for half the movie. Theron and Hardy clashed on set during filming. Hardy would frequently show up late, disrupting the shooting schedule, which must be really annoying if you're the guy who's suspended, like the Doof Warrior, suspended from, like, the thing with his flaming guitar. Like, all you've got to do is watch me do this. And there's one last thing I want to mention here, Lucas, post-production. And we're not going to cover all of it, but I'm just going to read the first sentence. Miller recruited his wife, Margaret Sixel, to edit the film.
Yeah.
So it was edited by his, like, 60, 70-year-old wife.
For some reason, that was a nugget of information in the back of my head that I did know. Yeah, and again, it's just probably some, like, YouTube video I've watched on the making of, and it's like, I love the idea of, the husband and wife movie-making team, like the director and editor specifically.
But it's just the fact, when you look at this film, it's like, who edited, like, these just immaculately choreographed action scenes? It's like George Miller's wife, and, like, the picture on a Wikipedia page, it's just, like, just a lady. It looks like someone's mum.
Yeah.
The film
Lots of experience, I presume.
Yeah, the film contains 2,700 cuts in 120 minutes, or 22.5 cuts per minute.
Fucking hell.
Sixel had to sort through 480 hours of footage, which took 3 months to edit, or 3 months to watch from start to finish.
What?
Yeah. They shot almost 500 hours of footage, and she had to sit and watch it in 3 months. and then cobble it together.
What the fuck? Oh my god! Like, I don't know how much footage is shot for a regular movie, but nearly 500 hours of footage for a 2-hour film seems insane.
And she had to sort through it all. And obviously, work with everybody else as well. Like all the other people who were making the movie. And then finally, we just have here themes. So survival and humanity is the main one. Miller described the film's key theme as survival, which he said it has in common with the American westerns that were such a staple for the better part of a century in American cinema. And there's like a couple of again, great world-building lines in the film about like how fucked humanity is and the idea that humanity's still endeavouring in the face of it. 'Cause you never really find out what happened in Mad Max. Like they allude to it and they say, there was some shit went bad, all the oil dried up, there was a war. But you don't really know how fucked the world is. It's just like, it's kind of bad. And there's a line where Mad Max says, like, can't we just drive off? And he talks about, well, I tried to drive across the desert. I drove in a straight line for 5 days and didn't see anything.
Okay, but that's just Australia, right? As far as I'm aware.
But he talks about how there was just like flat, desolate salt flats for like, a week straight. And then you're thinking, well, there's no salt flats on the earth that are that big. And then you think, no, that's the ocean. The oceans have boiled away.
Right.
There's no oceans anymore. Like when he talks about how he just drove for like days without seeing anything in one direction, it's like he's talking about the ocean. There's no ocean, but they don't need to say it. They just hint at it. It's like, there's nothing out there. Can't we just drive away? There's nothing. I tried. I drove for an entire week in a straight line. There's nothing.
I do like the idea, though, that just there might be this, quarter of the planet that's completely desolate, and that's the Mad Max world, and then the rest of the world just fine.
Well, there's that, jokey fan theory that Mad Max world, the universe, is fine. That's just Australia.
Yeah.
Because that's like in the first movie, you see like roads and stuff, because they just filmed it on location. So it's like, okay, so there's still some infrastructure left. But then, like, by Fury Road, there's fucking nothing. It's just a desert wasteland.
Right, yeah.
Another film is feminism, which, it's a word that makes, like, weirdos online really mad. It's like, yeah, it's a female-centered movie. So feminism is another theme that has received academic attention. Charlize Theron as Furiosa is the dramatic centre of the film. And throughout, her character demonstrates the physicality of a hero, committed to a rescue mission that sets up the start of the matriarchy as an antidote to the barbarian warlike tribes that came before. These elements contrast this film with the male-centered stories of the previous Mad Max films, which isn't really accurate. As I said, like Tina Turner's in one of them.
And Furiosa, I presume, with it being Anya Taylor-Joy, I presume it means that's a prequel where she's younger.
It's a prequel, yeah. It's how like the legend of Furiosa was born. Presumably, it's going to explain like how she lost her arm.
I didn't know that she lost her arm.
Yeah,
so
like Furiosa's got one. That's where most like the CGI was. They had to keep CGIing out like Charlize Theron's arm.
Right.
But yeah, it's a film that's centered around like women and the strength of women and the fact like they're literally being traded as property. Like Immortan Joe's trying to get his property back, and you find out his property is women, living people. It's like, it's a very simple but powerful message of like, hey, maybe don't do that. Fuck you. And then other themes, yeah. Miller described the film as quite simple, really. It's an allegory, almost a Western on wheels. Further themes pointed out by critics include vengeance, solidarity, home, and redemption, though he just says, like, you can read into it whatever you want. I see it as quite a simple film, but if that's how you want to read it, that's how you want to read it. Home dominates the motivations of Max, Furiosa, the 5 wives. His home was destroyed, she was taken from her home, and the wives were in search of a new home in which to raise their children. The unity of these characters also harnesses a concern for family, a common theme within Miller's films. And it says here, see Happy Feet 2 and Baby in the City. And the fact that Wikipedia is drawing a direct... Because I was doing it as a joke. Do you think I keep joking like you did, like I keep mentioning Babe and Happy Feet as a joke? Wikipedia is like, yeah, if you want to see other films of George Miller's filmography that deal with the concept of family as a main theme, go read about Happy Feet 2 and Babe Pig in the City. And I don't think I can say any more than that.
I mean, I suppose, yeah, like, I can't deny that those movies are about family.
And all I want to see now is I want to see the sequel to Babe, where just Babe's just driving around in the magnum opus, just fucking tail whipping motherfuckers.
The Happy Feet penguin are in the Mad Max wasteland, like, oh no, how are we going to tap dance now?
A key theme in Happy Feet is, global warming.
Why are you taking our fish? You're kind of killing us out there. No, wait!
Oh god, Carl, are you telling me that this is like the George Miller interconnected universe of
Lucas,
films?
is Happy Feet a prequel to Mad Max?
It might be.
It might be. We don't know. We don't fucking know. Is it just animated? It's from the Penguin's perspective?
Is it a sequel? Where, like, it's fallen back into the Ice Age and all the humans have died out and penguins took
I
over?
bet that's a theory someone has. You know that fucking stupid Toy Story one that goes around every now and again of, like, Toy Story is a prequel to Cars?
I mean, there's hints here and there of stuff, yeah. Like
Pixar
the
movies are
theory,
interconnected by, like, Easter eggs and stuff. But yeah, I bet there's someone out there who's, like, legit saying, is Happy Feet a prequel to Mad Max? It talks about, like, global warming. Which means that the penguins in Happy Feet failed to get humanity to change their ways.
Oh no, they couldn't save it.
I'm just imagining how it's like Mad Max, he drives for long enough and then he just sees the penguin and he just starts dancing. But then, like, the penguin comes out and he's got the guitar with the flames. Because, like, isn't that the thing in Happy
They've
Feet?
had to adapt to the world.
Because, like, in
Carl.
Happy Feet, isn't it? Like, it plays like tap dancers because he can't sing. Because he's shit at singing, so he has to tap dance instead.
Then they all start tap dancing together.
Man, maybe George Miller just wants to make a musical. I'd watch a Mad Max music.
I was going to say, imagine a Mad Max musical.
Basically is already. It's essentially just a 2-hour-long music video. Either way, yeah, that's Mad Max Fury Road. If you'd like to continue the conversation, like, you know, started in this video, you can do so at the links found below to the Discord and our social media accounts. I've been your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, joined by Lucas Holland.
Goodbye, everybody.
Go out there and have the day that you deserve. Cheers.